Good morning. I want to read to you now the next 4 chapters in my treatise on non-duality that I call Thus Spake Christopher. So this will be chapters 57 through 60. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And let me take care of a few housekeeping measures here real quickly. Okay. And as I always open with, everything I've done can be found at www.docbenton.com. Go down to the section called The Best of Doc Benton, and here is where you can either download or read Thus Spake Christopher online. It's just 72 short pages. But let me go to chapter 57 now, and we'll begin. Chapter 57. The man then asked, "Why do you say that to be one with the world, we must separate ourselves from the world?" I began to answer. This world is known as the world of separation, and when we engage with it in order to unite with it, we often simply enhance the separation instead. On the other hand, when we separate ourselves from the world, we can be separating ourselves from separation, and this can lead to oneness. It is an irony that we find unity through separation, and yet this is the way things are. We lose the world in order to gain the world, and we separate from all things in order to be one with all things. However, this does not happen automatically. One needs to know how to sense the unity of all things, and only then can this apparent separation lead to unity. Otherwise, it will lead only to isolation and more estrangement. But to those who know how to unify the name of reality, the objects that we give names to, engaging with separation will only lead to more separation, while separating oneself from the world will lead to uniting oneself with the world. Again, it sounds contradictory, and yet that is how it works. But only if you know how to unify the name. Only if you know how to unify all of the world's objects, each one of which points to the true nature of the world. Thus spake Christopher. Chapter 58. The man then asked, "What should we do when life is simply too overwhelming?" I began to answer. Circumstances can eventually be overwhelming for all of us, whether due to illness, catastrophic events, or strong emotions. In the short run, one may need sedation, medication, or other palliatives or prophylactics of one sort or another. However, one should also immediately focus even more strongly on one's own awareness at the center of one's being. Through realizing one's identity with this awareness, the pull of strong external circumstances can be lessened and the trauma related to them reduced. Also, helpful is to develop beforehand the habit of being firmly established in one's true self so that external events are less likely to disturb one's equilibrium. Furthermore, look at the situation you're in with your mind's eye while staying centered and without reacting to the situation. You want to do this because, as in quantum physics, every time you look at it, it will be slightly different. You won't step into exactly the same river twice. And eventually, it may change into something that is more tolerable. You may also want to ask yourself how this situation could be different and how we might make things better. Our brains are designed to try and answer every question we pose to it. And so asking is one way to get the ball of change rolling. Additionally, there is an advantage to avoiding extremes in one's life, since these can often make it harder to maintain balance. Hence, for example, be neither too active nor overly inactive. Keep in mind, too, that all things and all perceptions are temporary, and that which is overwhelming you will also eventually pass. And again, the more you're able to hold onto your center, the less traumatic and the more bearable the entire experience will be. This, holding on to your center, is the most important thing. The most joyous person I ever knew was a quadriplegic, but because he had learned how to hold on to a center, he was always filled with joy despite the limitations in his life, and people were always visiting him in order to bask in his joy. Hence, cleave to the very center of your being, the light and life within, and the light will expel the darkness. Thus spake Christopher. Chapter 59. The man then asked, "Why should we be concerned about future generations?" I began to answer, "Why should you not be concerned about future generations? It is only because someone planted trees long ago and created roads and reservoirs of water that you can enjoy them today. Within nature, there are two opposing forces. One is a force of entropy that leads to gradual decay and dissolution. This is a force that leads to chaos and to the disorder of randomness. The other is a force of life that leads to greater order and organization. It is the life force that has created all the great art and culture and sublime thought of humanity. In the long run in this universe, the force of entropy always wins, but life creates pockets of order within this entropy, and the order and organization of life is maintained by a constant flow of resources that go into and out of the coherent and sentient pictures that have emerged. Hence, in order to preserve life, this flow must be maintained not only in space, but also in time. Therefore, to prepare for the well-being of future generations is to also preserve life. Furthermore, we always have before us both the chaos of entropy and the higher organization of life, and we can choose one or the other. Be wise and choose life. Thus spake Christopher. Chapter 60. The man asked, "What do I do about people who make me angry?" I began to answer. Anger usually results when someone else's actions trigger a complex within you, and these knee-jerk reactions can be neutralized by first establishing yourself in awareness and then examining your complex in depth, so that the reflex that has been triggered can be consciously changed. Additionally, if someone wronged you yesterday, then that may be their fault. But if you're still angry today, then that is your fault. Why are you clinging to things that happened in the past? Certainly, there is some value in remembering past transgressions so that they can be warnings for the future, or so that you can deal with them now in a positive way. But to continue to replay these events in your head so that you can be angry over and over again only hurts yourself. That is not the way to deal with these issues. At some point in time, it is not they who are hurting you, but you yourself that are choosing to experience that hurt again and again. Foolish person, when will you learn to let go of these attachments that are only causing you pain? There is such perfection and beauty in every moment, and yet you voluntarily choose to experience anger and pain instead. How foolish is that? Thus spake Christopher. Okay, well, that's it for today. So let me stop sharing my screen. And I'm back. So again, thank you for joining me. I hope to see you again in the future. In the meantime, be kind to yourself and others. And so I'll say so long and be well.